Hi everyone, it's Rena. So this video is if you have your sun in Aquarius and your moon in Gemini. This is double air. So air signs are intellectual. They're kind of above it all, We think of air, it's not, grounded. So people who are air signs tend to communicate in a rather, I was going to say an airy way. I I'm thinking of NPR. If you've ever listened to NPR on the radio, and how the anchors or announcers talk, that's the intellectual side coming out in the air signs, because air is going to be abstract. And so concepts are very important to air signs. And it's hard for me to articulate all of this because of the abstractions. Basically, how I would describe it is that everything that is filtered through the consciousness of air signs, it's almost like symbolized. It becomes symbolic. And I joke about air signs loving therapy so they can talk about their feelings. Well, I say that because it's the opposite of feeling one's feelings. And this can be where these people who are double air get tripped up, because it's not just one air sign, it's two. And the sun is more of that masculine, yang influence of the goal-oriented individual, the part of yourself that wants to make its mark on the world. That part is an Aquarius. Aquarius can be an intellectual, highly intelligent person, but Aquarius is also intuitive in its own way. So Aquarians may love books on science or studying that area, but they may also love astrology. They may even say astrology is a science. And they love other kinds of metaphysical topics as well. They may gravitate towards things that have to do with galactic information, starseed information, things that are ahead of its time, although that time seems to have arrived right now. But I could see all these things like sacred geometry and everything else being things that Aquarians would intuitively connect with. It's funny, I was thinking of this astrologer who seemed like a real kind of a quirky person and was very technical in that type of, as an astrologer. And I found out that he is an Aquarius, and it makes perfect sense. There's something of the mad scientist in an Aquarius type of person, because Aquarius is associated with technology and innovation, probably. I think that's another key word. So the Aquarius individual has an inventive mind. If you are walking around, you may always have like a far off look in your eyes. I was going to say, well, if your Mercury is in Aquarius too, but even if your Mercury was in Pisces, you probably would have the same thing, maybe even more far off. I don't know. But anyway, so the mind gets quite a workout with the sun being in Aquarius, to the point of even choosing some kind of a mental pursuit as one's vocation, as opposed to somebody who works with their hands. That's what I mean. Now, the moon in Gemini being an air sign, it will have some of those same characteristics, but the moon position is different, and Gemini is different from Aquarius, even though they're both air signs. So as far as the moon goes, this is the emotional nature. This can indicate the type of the way that you express emotions and receive other people's emotions or just react to life. It can be your mother, like what kind of a mother did you have? People with the moon in Gemini tend to have mothers who are very verbal, intellectual, and even if they dropped out of high school, they still are self-taught. They're very, they might be insatiably curious, and they may leave their child to their own devices. In other words, they're not helicopter parents. They're much more hands-off. And for an Aquarian sun sign, if you did have this type of mother, that would be a godsend, actually, because that's what you're looking for. You're not looking to be curtailed. You don't need that type of nurturing that maybe a Sun in Pisces person would need. So we all need different things, and this is why we can't, make broad judgments about or statements about what is good and what is bad in terms of these influences. The challenge of the moon in Gemini person is not to be emotionally fickle or shallow. Because Gemini is a mutable air sign, Gemini people treat communication, ideas, information as they're like kids in a candy store. So even in the moon position, even though the moon is supposed to be emotional in nature, it can also be, I think, what you like. You might enjoy this kind of intellectual stimulation, but do not intellectually bypass your emotions, where you're out of touch with your emotions. This combination is at quite a risk of being out of touch with their emotions. And in doing so, a person may find it hard to really not only understand themselves at a deeper level, but be able to have a serious relationship that has a lot of gravitas, that has a lot of substance to it. Because especially what I said about the fickle quality, the affections can be quite fickle if the person isn't careful. And the sign of Aquarius, that's a fixed sign. So it won't be fickle as far as the influence coming from the sun. I'm talking about emotionally, though, and we have to look at what that can mean for a person who is involved with another person. There may be a strong need for novelty, and so the person gets bored very quickly in dealing with another individual. Or if that person is more emotional than they are, they may shy away from that because it's too heavy, man. It's too heavy. It's too intense. So one of the best bets is choosing someone who is like you, who is going to give you a long leash, who isn't going to be very possessive. Actually, this combination is a great candidate for a polyamorous lifestyle, meaning that the person isn't just limited to one partner. And I'm defining this myself, but I think that in the higher evolved versions of polyamory, that there is a strong commitment to love. It's not just about sleeping around. That could just be like an open marriage. So, because possessiveness can be even justified sometimes, I'm talking about by society at large, just the social construct of marriage is trying to protect against anything but a monogamous situation. It may be hard to find somebody who understands your attitude towards your partner, and definitely look at your Venus sign to see how that plays into things. If you are an Aquarian, and you have your Venus in Pisces, you may want a monogamous relationship, but you are going to allow your partner to go outside of the relationship, and you will suffer silently because you believe that love is about sacrifice. So there are so many different configurations here that can emerge for sure, that it can make it difficult to know exactly what the person truly wants or is truly good for them. But I think in general, you are not a possessive person. And therefore, the type of relationship that you have has to reflect that. And if somehow you get involved with somebody, because, Aquarius is being a fixed sign, you may attract a Leo person, which would form a square. Leo is your opposite sign, but I'm talking about, no, I didn't mean Leo, I meant Scorpio. And sometimes fixed signs irritate each other, but they're still especially physically attracted to each other. And those types of relationships can be a great learning ground, maybe, on what you don't want. If you deal with somebody who is very suspicious, very afraid that you're going to leave, and so they do these little things that are, we could say, are underhanded, like looking through your things or whatever, sneaky things that just don't add to trust and a good relationship. If you have to deal with somebody like that, or a Taurus, that's another sign that you may find yourself with at some time, but you realize you're not compatible at a basic level. Some of these things, our society values physical attraction to another person, and maybe possibly having the same belief systems. Having the same religion or the same political identity. But nobody talks about the attitude as it pertains to relationships themselves, and what are the rights of people within a relationship. So anyway, just wanted to bring that out. You definitely need somebody who you can have that intellectual rapport with. And because of this, it's highly possible that you would be attracted to a very brainy, nerdy person, and their physical appearance isn't front and center in your life. I have Venus in Aquarius, and I would be totally attracted to somebody's mind over their body, for sure. Because that to me is, very superficial. But I'm always very stimulated by somebody who has a quick wit, they have that certain something, the way that they express themselves, and and I think that there are more women who are attracted to, in my case, men like that than we're told exists, But anyway, so in terms of professions, definitely anything with communication being front and center. I'm always talking about the tarot. Like, I'm always making these connections with the tarot in my mind now. Something like the Knight of Swords, for instance, or the King of Swords. So it could be being a lawyer, being a professor. I say especially a professor because we talk about higher learning as more sophisticated learning with double air. It's less about the nurturing aspect as you have to deal with younger children, and more about just kind of developing the mind. So academia, and I would say it's very interesting what these two signs represent. The first thing I said was social media, because Aquarius rules the 11th house, which is connected to the internet. The internet being technology plus the collective, okay? And the third house has also been linked to the internet versus social media. I would say especially emphasizing media, because the third house is the media, news, journalism. Give me information that is, hot off the presses, and just what I also call mundane knowledge of all varieties. News of the world, information needed to function in the world. The ninth house is the house of academia, is abstract knowledge, and it can also be philosophy, God, knowledge about God, organized religious systems. Would a person like this be good at physical labor? There's always going to be people who are like this. My partner is very intellectual. He's not this combination. But he said to me that he needs to work with his hands, okay? Some people are like that they, especially if they are very mental, they're always reading, so they need to have some kind of physical type of a job so that it forces them to not be sedentary all the time. So I think that there might be some people like that. I'm sure that there might even be a few people who gravitate towards something like psychotherapy. It's not that I really don't see this combination as specializing in that, though. The reason I say it is the analytical skills that the person possesses. Sometimes, and also the lack of outward emotion, the more detached way of perceiving things, which can be a godsend when, if you do grow up in a traumatic situation, because it may leave less of a mark on you. But in those situations, I feel like a patient or a client, whatever you want to call them, can really benefit from having their problem characterized in terms of analysis, because it takes away the drama from the situation, extracts the drama from it. And I think of somebody like Eckhart Tolle, and I know he is a sun in Aquarius. He's very close to Pisces. I think his birthday is February 17th. So he's, on the cusp with Pisces for sure. But I don't know what his moon sign is. But I wouldn't be surprised in the least if it was Gemini. And one of the specialties of Eckhart Tolle is to laugh at the mind, the machinations of the mind. And I love that because I think that there's a lot to be said for seeing the mind in the context of something that is treacherous more times than not, and that it doesn't lead to anything positive in terms of enhancing one's life. I mean, obviously, I'm not talking about solving problems or things like that. I'm talking about the repetitive thoughts that people have. And he talks a lot about that kind of thing and how people make these identifications about themselves, through the ego and that. And one thing to note, too, is that this combination is very social. The reason that I just suddenly thought about that was when I said the ego, and I was thinking of Aquarius, and Aquarius is the collective, and its opposite sign, Leo, often gets accused of being egotistical because Leo is celebrating the individual. Leo is ruled by the sun, and so the sun represents the individual. So I feel like this combination can really be extroverted, meaning that they gain energy through their interactions with other people. Is this good? Is this bad? Is this indifferent? It's not bad if a person connects more than shallowly with others in a social setting. I think it can be very good. And you know what? It can be very possible if you have your sun in Aquarius, but it's in the 8th house or it's in the 12th house, you may have a much deeper appreciation of life itself, and you interact with others coming from that place, or if your moon is in either of those houses too. And there might be other ones that could also speak about this deeper sense of approach to life. The reason I say that is because sometimes when people are very social, it's almost like a way to escape from being alone, and being able to tolerate that and be comfortable being alone, and also to experience emotional intimacy with another person. Because when you are with a group of people all the time, you're going to keep things pretty shallow unless it's some kind of support group or something. And it doesn't, it's some people really enjoy functioning on the surface because they don't feel like they have to get into anything heavy. And if you come from that background, I can totally understand that. And I'm not even saying that is a bad thing many times, because we don't need to make everything a cathartic experience. Sometimes we just want to enjoy other people's company without having it to be a big thing. But what I'm saying is that, like, for instance, in one-on-one relationships, like a romantic relationship, this can sometimes cause it to suffer if one person feels like the other one is always gone away from the home, not connecting with them deeply, almost like avoiding them in a sense. That can make the relationship stay on the surface level, and neither parties really can utilize relationship at the deepest level, because relationships serve multiple functions, and one of them can be as a spiritual practice, just being in a long-term relationship with someone where you are talking about things that are important, that can be therapeutic, but it can also, sometimes it can be super challenging, the conflicts that arise. But some people, they don't want to face conflicts, and they just feel like it's very unpleasant, and so they may try to avoid that relationship, even if they're married to that person or living with that person. They may just have all these activities and people that they have to see, and that's a perfect excuse not to deepen their relationship. But yeah, you can have like a wonderful companion if you find somebody that shares your interests, for sure, and it can be very rewarding to such a person. So that's what I have for you. I hope that this resonated. And if you would like a private reading, the link is below. Take care. Bye.